Pavilion Technical Services, your computers and electronics concierge service.
Welcome back. We got ourselves a bit of a surprise here tonight. I happened to have found this computer in the dumpster at the place I work at the other night and decided to grab it and see what it was all about. And guess what? It works. There was actually stickers on the front of this from the day it was purchased, you know, like advertising how much memory it had and all that, and I've already peeled those off since I already powered it up and tested it out. The neat thing about this computer is it has this expansion port, and it also has a TV tuner built inside of it. This is a video input, and if I turn it around, you can also see in the back here that there's the cable inputs. Now unfortunately this is an older computer now, obviously, and particularly cable inputs on the back here are from the old cable system that used to exist here in the States. We now have digital cable that will no longer work. I can, however, get a cable box, or in my case here a DirecTV box if I want, and connect it to the S-video connection here and connect the audio connection here as well. But you know, really, with DVRs today and everything else, it's kind of a moot point because the video quality isn't going to be that great. Also, you can see from the video card, which it needs since there is no onboard video, this does also have a super video and a standard composite video output. So you can take a guess what you're going to use this for. This is, you know, consider like in the VHS days of things. I do have a DVD recorder that you could also kind of interface into this, if you will. But again, it's the same kind of concept, just with a DVD instead of a hard drive. So there really isn't any kind of increase there. It is nice though, because it does have the digital output built right onto the motherboard here, as well as the 5.1 sound output. It may even be 7.1. I'll have to see if the software has that. And yeah, it has a 300 gigabyte hard drive in it, which is another point. This was in the dumpster. It had a hard drive in it. Not only that, but it was fixed at Best Buy, and Best Buy likes to stick a sticker inside of it with your name on it. So I know who this belongs to, and I won't say the name. I won't tell you what he does in the building I work for. He doesn't work in my particular business. He works in another business in the building. And judging by the type of work he does, I don't know what this computer was used for. I'm not going into his personal settings. There is a password. If I really want to, I can crack it. I'm not that kind of person. I don't care. But anyway, this could be a computer he used as a media server, or it could also be something he used to do his business on. And if that's the case, then it's kind of scary. He just threw it in the dumpster like that with a hard drive in it. Which is why you want to bring it to someone like me. When you bring a computer like this into me to get scrapped, I take the hard drive out, I either physically destroy it, or if it's going to be reused, I actually have a program that will write ones and zeros to it several times over. It takes a couple days actually, and that way it completely eradicates any data that's on there, and it makes it pretty much impossible to be recovered. You know, that's the right way to do it. Plus, you don't really want to throw these in a dumpster. It's going to go in a landfill, you know. There's materials that can be salvaged out of this, you know. These cases are steel, and there's really not a whole lot you could do with them, you know, recycle them other than that. But all the parts inside, they can get sent for recycling easily. But this particular computer actually works pretty greatly. I'm going to actually open up, show you inside of it here, but this may actually end up being a useful computer to me. It's definitely a lot faster than the Windows XP machine that I featured in an earlier video. That one I kind of took the sum of a couple different machines and put them together to make a better computer. It actually may be better than the Windows 7 machine I'm using here. They both have DDR2 memory in it, and this is actually a Windows XP Media Center computer, so for the statistics, you know, it's a pretty good Windows XP machine, in my opinion. So I don't know what I'm going to do with it. I'm going to play with it and see if, you know, if it's worth putting any time into it. So far, I think it is. You know, you can also notice it does have a Wi-Fi card. It didn't have the little antenna hook to it, but that's okay because I have one lying around here in my parts. And I even have extra memory for this thing. I have an extra 2 512 gigabyte chips lying around. Whoops. That, you know, there's 4 slots in this. I could just throw those in there. And there's already 2 gigabytes of memory as it is. I didn't look to see what speed processor it is though. And that might be something they have to do. But with that, I'm going to cut the video here for a sec and get this opened up. We can take a look inside. Alright, here we are inside the computer. I could try to show you this as best as possible. Now you might be able to tell if you know anything about computers. This big red wire over here, this is the SATA cable, which is a good sign because this is a SATA hard drive. Now I did notice that they're using SATA hard drives and they're using IDE optical drives, which is totally fine by me because that's what I'm using in my personal computer anyway. With those drives you don't really need the speed. IDE turns out being just fine for me. Of course, if they were all SATA, that'd be a little better. More modern machines will have that. But again, this isn't the most modern machine. I'm assuming this is probably going to be SATA 1. Maybe SATA 2. Not 100% sure. I'll have to look up the full specs. Have not done that yet. You can also see inside, possibly, that this is a PCI-E video card. I think it's GeForce 7000 something, 7300 maybe. I have to pull that and take a look at it. There's also the wireless card right next to it, as well as the TV tuner down below. The TV tuner has its own cabling which goes up front to the port up here, which also has the line out, the microphone in, a FireWire port, 2 USB, and of course here's the TV, TV tuner card input. This is actually called input 2. There's a super video up here, which is kind of hard to see on camera. There's the composite, and then of course the audio input. And then here's that media bay. Media bay just has a little flap down door. It's also covered over by this. I'm assuming the media bay was for a hard drive because back here there is this white wire which actually is a USB 2.0 connection, and then there's also this pigtail that comes off which looks like has a resistor in it, and this is the Molex connector back here, and this is on the 12 volt line. I'll have to put my multimeter to this and see what this is providing. I'm taking a stab at it and saying that this is cutting down the power here, this resistor. Since it's a big resistor, it's most likely a power resistor. Just judging by the package that's sitting under this heat shrink. I'll have to again put my meter to it and see if I can find that. But this actually has these 2 little thumb screws that come out, and once that loosens, they're actually quite long. You could see it's just a standard USB 2.0 connector with a little, barrel power connector. Not sure exactly what size. Again, that's going to be a proprietary HP cradle. But this is a 5 1/4 inch standard slot here. I do have a external hard drive docking system that I've maybe showed in earlier videos, or I'm not sure. That I have in my Windows 7 machine under the desk here, that if I actually decide to go with this machine instead, I can actually put that in here instead, and then using the SATA connection and one of the power connectors for the floppy drive, which is tucked away up here somewhere, I can use that instead, because this is kind of not useful for me. Also, you can barely see down here, there's actually 4 memory slots, which is great. I'll have to see what the maximum specs are. Again, if it's going to be Windows XP, you'll see just under 4 gigabytes. If I can get Windows 7 with a 64-bit operating system on here, I might be able to go higher. I'm thinking 8 gigabytes, not 100% sure. That'd be interesting to find out. Again, this is DDR2 memory, which is pretty good. I'd like to see DDR3 machine because I have that kind of memory lying around, but those will be a little ways away yet before I get one of those across my hand as a spare machine, since they're still pretty new. Let's see if I can show anything else here of interest while I'm here. The thing does weigh pretty good amount. You know, it's a pretty sturdy case. I like that. There's a lot of metal in here to make this part happen. Of course, this has the same kind of front like all the other ones do. There's just a couple clips inside here that if you pop them up, this will just pop off here. And you can just take that off if you want to access the front of the computer here. This bracket here just lifts up if you want to slide this whole thing right out. This will just release this part. And you can take the hard drive out. There's just a single SATA connection back here. And there's also the power connector for the SATA as well. And that will connect to the hard drive. I think what may have been happening, and I don't know, again, this worked when I took it out of the dumpster, but what may have happened was the power connector, this SATA power connector for the hard drive, was actually really loose. And there's a good possibility that this kept popping out and the guy that owned it, and he didn't know any better and just chucked it because he was just fed up with it not working. Or it was Windows XP and he went out and bought a new machine finally with Windows probably 10 on it by now and decided to get rid of this old machine. He didn't need it anymore. Either way, the thing works and may be very useful to me. But at any rate, like I said, this thing just slides right out as long as I can get the SATA connector disconnected. I did notice that these are locking SATA wires and they are kind of finicky. Like this one's giving me a heck of a time to try to come out right now. Yeah, there it goes. And then this thing just slides out. You kind of have to wiggle it. And you can see there's that hard drive. And this looks like one of the older, you know, Caviar Black series. You can see it's called Caviar somewhere here. Yeah, the Western Digital Caviar SE. That might be, you know, the special edition or a standard edition or, you know, just the OEM version or whatever. It does have the standard SATA power and SATA data connections, but it also has hidden behind this little connector here, this standard Molex connector too. I've seen a couple of these hard drives. They were used in these older systems that still used IDE with the SATA connections. So you had both of them, but now that I've taken that out, you can see that motherboard a little bit better. And this does look like it's an Asus motherboard. I can tell by the font that they use. I'll have to pull up some data on that and take a look at it. You can also tell by the fan, of course, it says Asus. And this is pretty dusty. This will have to take the standard route out to the shed at some point during the daylight and get blown out by the air compressor. But for the meantime, I'm going to go ahead and take out some of these cards over here and take a look at it. Ultimately, like I said, it's going to be one of those things where I'm going to look at the sum of all the parts and see whether it's better to keep this together as a whole or rip some of these parts out, put them in another machine, or go with this machine, or who knows what. But we'll see what these look like. Went through my parts and actually found one of these HD TV computer monitors here. And this has your typical composite S-video component input as well as a VGA input, and it also has a TV tuner. But again, it suffers the same fate as the TV tuner in this computer. It's an analog system. I'm not going to be using that anyway because I have DirecTV. Wouldn't make much difference. And like I mentioned previously, the quality that you're going to get out of this thing isn't going to be the greatest anyhow, so it's kind of a moot point. What I do plan on doing with this is hooking a VCR up to it and converting my old VHS cassettes that I can no longer really do anything with, and converting them to a file that at least I can look at digitally in my computer, hopefully. If not, I'll convert them to DVD. I do have a DVD burner, so if I can't get this thing to work the way I want it to, I'll just hook the DVD burner up and do it the right way. Now, I did pull some specs online for this. This is an HP Pavilion M7480N. It is a media center PC, like I mentioned. It's using the Asus P5LP-LE motherboard. Now, this is the Emery edition of this motherboard, and it's important to note that. Currently, it's running a Pentium D at 3.00 GHz with a 800 MHz frontside bus. This is the Pentium D 830. It can go up to either the Pentium 4 670, which is a 3.8 GHz processor, or the Pentium D 840, which is a 3.2 GHz processor. one of those hyper threads. I don't remember which one. Now I say it had 3072 megabytes or 3 gigabytes of memory. It actually came with two. I did put the two 512 megabyte chips in it to get that extra gigabyte, but it's the PC2 4200 running at 533 megahertz, and that is, like I mentioned, the 2 gigabytes plus the 1 gigabyte I threw in. Now you can do up to 4 gigabytes in the system. You can do the PC2 5300, which is 667 megahertz. That speed difference does make a difference, believe it or not. The north bridge on this is the Intel 945p. The south bridge is the Intel ICH 7D4, or DH, I'm sorry. Now I mentioned the Emery board. There is a P5LP-LE from Asus, which is the Leonite edition. Now that mentions that you can do up to a 1066 megahertz frontside bus, and that'll also take the Core 2 Duo 6000 series processors, which should be great. Unfortunately, from what I can tell, I can't do that in this particular system I have here. Now it does have the Hauppauge WinTV PVR 150 PCI card in it. It also had a Connexton RD01-D850 56K modem. I did pull it. I have no use for it. It also came with the HP 802.11 Wireless G PCI adapter and an HP 256 megabyte GeForce 7300 LE PCI-E video card, which is kind of neat that they were both HP devices. As far as I could tell, I couldn't see any of the branding on it. In fact, when I put the part numbers on all these devices into Google, it did come up with them being HP pieces, with the exception of the Hauppauge and the Connexton. Now that video card I mentioned is has a 64-bit memory interface. It runs at about 5.2 gigabytes per second, and it has a 1.8 billion pixel fill rate. Now the only update I did to this, I managed to swap out that 3 gigabyte 533 megahertz RAM set that was in here for 2 gigabytes of 667 megahertz. Honestly, I would rather have speed over, quantity. I know it's not much difference in speed, but I feel like it's enough. Ultimately, I could order 4 1 gigabyte 667 megahertz chips off of eBay. They're not terribly expensive. I may just do that if I plan on keeping this for any length of time. I'm not sure about that right now. I also mentioned that I upgraded the BIOS from the original 3.06 that I found it with to the 3.19, hoping that maybe it would give me some better CPU compatibility. We'll see when I get to that. I did look up the P4670 and the PD840 processors. They're not terribly expensive again. Depends on if I'm going to keep this for any length of time. I'll have to figure that out. Now, what I think I'm going to do is end up putting this monitor and this unit in my back bedroom and using it as like a spare, I don't know, a spare computer system, or a spare TV, just in case you get sick one day and go to work and you need a place to lay down, you have something to watch. Because currently I have nothing back there. The only TV I have right now is in my living room, and then my computer room is its own deal. So that being said, that's probably where it's going to end up living. I did get Windows XP Media Center Edition reloaded onto this. Unfortunately, the only disc I had was a Dell CD, which the only thing it does is it puts a Dell folder onto the C drive, which just has a bunch of generic drivers that most Dells use. So I just had to delete that and then go on the HP's website and just download all the appropriate drivers for this, which was not a problem at all. I also went on the NVIDIA's website and got the driver for the card there, and I got the Hauppauge driver directly from their site as well. Finding the installation CD for the WinTV software was a little sketchy. I can get the upgraded CD from the Hauppauge website, but you had to have the original OEM CD that came with the unit to use it. So I had to find another way to get that, which wasn't terribly hard. It was just an extra step, But that's about it. I mean, it's running really well right now. It's kind of sleeping right now. I have my monitor behind the camera actually hooked up as the monitor to use it, and this was just hooked up through a super video wire. You can kind of see off to the side just to test out to see how it looks. And it kind of, yeah, it looks like crap. But that was expected. Like I said, this is an older system. You know, whenever you see something with a composite and a super video output as a second monitor and a VGA output, you know, there's no DVI on it or anything like that, you know it's a pretty old system. You know, quite comparatively now, Hauppauge actually has a portable device that's just a handheld little puck, and you basically hook the HDMI wire from, let's say, your PlayStation 4 or 3 or Xbox or whatever the heck you want to plug into it. You hook it to one side of the puck, and then you hook the HDMI wire to your TV, and with the push of a button you can automatically record everything right to a USB stick, which is amazing that it's all in a handheld device now. Then again, if you think about it, it's probably easier to build a device like that because you can just kind of make the circuitry involved in it all on one board. You know, yeah, you're basically just taking a signal in, splitting it off, exporting it back out to another port, and in the meantime you're kind of rendering it to a file directly to storage. So you don't need anything super duper fancy. You know, certainly not as fancy as a full-fledged computer. I mean, it's going to have its own processing power and its own merit, but you know, actually if you think about it, probably has more processing power in that little puck than most older computers did from back in the day. But anyway, I digress. So quite enough for this video. I'd like to thank you for watching. I'm going to have some more videos up here, trying to get through a bunch of these. I'm going to have some reviews coming up about some products I got. Of course, Christmas was just the other day, so I'll have some stuff to show you from that. And well, thanks for watching. Please subscribe for more.